Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev. Today we continue to beat the heat by working on our water gun combat game. The last time we continued working on our random generation by adding spawn systems for water spouts and enemies to the game. This included one of my favorite accidents of recent memory, the mass spawning of enemies. And thanks to some optimization I did off video, we managed to somehow maintain a stable frame rate despite the chaos. So today we continue to near the end of our work on this project by focusing on refining and adding actual game elements to our video game. We'll add a point system and win conditions, and we will refine the current combat code to work with said conditions. Sounds like a good beginning to an end, so let's get to the coding. The first thing I wanted to do was add a scoreboard that could be brought up at any time. The display was simple. A tinted background with the current score for players and enemies would be displayed on top of the gameplay. I thought the screen space was too important to keep a constant score counter on screen, and so I felt like this was a good compromise. Not too intrusive, and it doesn't obstruct the view. And yes, I went into detail over this just so I could highlight how tedious it is to draw even the most simple of things in GameMaker. Anyway, with the display working, I had players earn points anytime an enemy is defeated. And making sure it works right using our new score display. Yep, okay, good. That meant we could finally make our player mortal. I applied the same exact damage checks used in the enemy's code to the player. Only in the player's case, instead of being destroyed, the enemies get a point and the player is instantly moved to a new location. Their ammo and health is then refilled to continue the fight. I thought about making the new location random, but eventually I decided to have players spawn where the current water spout is. I then added collision checks to the squirts so the enemy bullets would now interact with the player. This ended up working out exactly as I had hoped. Much like the enemies, the player was now vulnerable to opposing squirts and would take damage like any mortal water gunner would. And once vanquished, they are moved over to the water spout like we just booted up Dark Souls with our stats refilled to go again. Nifty. Now, in order to make things more fair, I thought we'd add a healing factor to the player code. Anytime the player's health is not full, a timer would count down, and once it hit 0, the player would regain 1 point of health. The initial 2 seconds ended up being too fast, so I settled for 5 seconds per heal tick. This may seem like a lot, but trust me, it'll make sense later. For now, we had a slow heal ability for any skillful squirt sidesteppers out there. So with our player now mortal, we had to refine their weapons, namely adding those additional properties for special secondary weapons. The additions were simple. If squirts are marked as piercing, they would ignore destroying themselves on collision with enemies. And squirts marked as splash created multiple squirts on destruction. Originally I went with 4, but it wasn't very impressive, so I changed the splash to 8 short-range projectiles. These tweaks provided a great change of pace to the weaponry and really added that missing variation to the gameplay. Next up, I added a timer to our game. Just like in Warframe's game mode, players combat the enemy for the duration of the allotted time, each side racking up points in the process. And the side with the most points at the end are the winners. And it's at the end of the round that we also display a game over screen and countdown to resetting for the next round. Again, screen space was important, so I tried to keep the timer as simple as possible, only keeping track of the minutes. This will likely change in the future because it doesn't really look right. But for now, this was all we needed to set up for what is likely going to be the final episode of working on this project. I should also take a moment to point out I did in fact improve the spawn entrances for enemies with added sprites for effect. They're not as bombastic as I'd liked, but it actually worked better this way because often enemies aren't even on screen when spawning. Anyway, I am excited for the final finishing touches with one more large addition to go, but that'll have to wait until next time because that is the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So remember that if you like this video or enjoy Let's Dev in general, be sure to hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. And as always, be sure to leave your thoughts on our progress in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.